Certainly like to add to the rotation. A bunch of different ways to do that. We'll look at all ways, and I think that we'd have some interest in adding a left-hand hitter somewhere. There's different ways to do that too, and then I would imagine that there would be some work done in the bullpen, and so from a player perspective, those would be the three areas, basic three areas.
Gordon on the right.
Johnny, yesterday you said that you had identified the shortcomings this season and dealt further. When you look back, what were the shortcomings in your mind, and could any of them have been avoided?
The shortcomings, I think, when we look at offensively, this might have been kind of a nightly theme that we would come up and talk about what transpired that night on the field. And while I thought, for the majority of the season, created a number of opportunities for ourselves, it wasn't finished through with overall runs scored. So when you look at our overall production, offense was one area that was a shortcoming. What we could have done differently, when someone asks you, do you feel like you're partly responsible for the season, my first response is yes, and that's in a way that could we have done something differently with a different offensive identity, given the strengths of our roster and who populated it. But in the end, I think the overall thing was where we came up short offensively as a team.
Sean, right?
For both of you, I suppose. How do you overcome the problem of getting both Rusney and Mookie on the field together next season, given the likelihood of Pedroia returning healthy and eliminating the option of having Mookie play second?
I think you're assuming it's a problem. I don't think we can assume it's a problem until it's a problem, and in October it's not a problem. So if it's a problem at some point, great. We'll have a problem if we have, too many good players for the spots we have, then I guess that's a problem. We'll deal with it. But we all know a lot can happen between now and next April, and we'll see where we are. I think we finished in last place, and we need more good players, not less. So hopefully we're building that, and we need to continue to build that.
Okay, Brian, left.
Ben, to what degree do you see third base as an area that you'd like to address from outside the organization? To upgrade there.
Yeah, well, we have two young third basemen who we believe can be very good major league players, and then we have, and I'm speaking about Will and Garen, and then we have Brock Holt, who was one of our better players over the course of the season, who can also play third base. So there are options there, and obviously, in Brock's case, he's I think with his performance this year, he's given all of us some belief that he's part of a winning team. Exactly how that plays out, we'll see. There's time to figure that out. I think going back to what John said, we need to build a better offense, a more consistent offense. There's different things that go into that. Certainly part of that is a deeper lineup, not just 1 through 9, but 1 through 13. If we carry 13 position players in general, we need a deeper group of 13. So that's what we have to do. Could third base be an area we look at? It could be, but there's a number of different ways that I could imagine addressing that issue of building a deeper lineup. But we do feel like we have some guys in the organization now that certainly are capable of being good major league third baseman.
Ben, Larry said on the radio the other day that you can't afford to repeat the mistake of relying too much on young players. Did you think that was a mistake, and was there too much of a reliance on young players?
So going back to last off season, I'll get to the answer. I think we felt like as we look towards 2014, 2015, and beyond, trying to build a team that could sustain a level of success, we felt at some point we were going to have to integrate some young position players, and then at some point we're going to have to integrate some young pitching. And we really didn't want to do both at once if we could avoid it. And so we felt, just given where people were in their development, that there was a better chance to integrate some position players in 2014, knowing that inevitably there was going to be some transition on the pitching side after that at some point. So looking back on it, what we try to do is build a team that would allow for that, and where the young players were protected enough where we could be still competitive and winning, and then get into a season and be able to make adjustments if we had to. That was our plan. I think it's certainly fair to say that we didn't execute the plan as well as we should have. So that's what I look back on and ask myself: is there a better way we could have executed the plan? I think clearly the answer is yes, because the results are the results. So we need to execute better, and that leads to better performance. And I take responsibility ultimately for the performance. We're not gonna, and we can't shy away from the idea of committing to young players when they prove that they should be committed to, because that's still going to be the best way we can sustain a level of success over a long period of time.
David on the right.
This question is for either of you. Your team, like a lot of teams in baseball, have worked hard to work pitch counts and get starters out as early as possible. Given the improved bullpens in baseball, a lot of guys throwing 95 out of the pen, a lot of matchups, has it reached the point where maybe you don't necessarily want to work counts as much?
It's a great question. I mean, I think there's no question. You're right that the game has changed and offense has changed, and power in terms of at least home runs is down, and even on base is down across the league. And we can talk about the reasons for that. There's all sorts of reasons. I think that we know we need to build a better offense and produce more. I think we have to be careful to sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we can, see pitches and grind at bats and get on base and still hit for power and hit with runners in scoring position, then I still think that's a formula to score runs and more runs than our competition. So certainly some of it has to do with the personnel you have, and there are example of teams that have been successful this year who don't see a ton of pitches and maybe don't get on base as much as we're used to getting on base here. So I'm not saying there's one way to do it, but I just think we have to be careful about moving too far away from the things that we've always been good at. I'd rather try to fix the things that just didn't work this year and start there.